and welcome to Soulful. All right. Hello again, and welcome back. My name is Drew, and this is Soulful. And I am feeling very present, freshly Vipassanaed. And yeah, in doing the Vipassana episode, it got me reflecting a little bit on my first trip to India. And so I thought, while I was in this space, I might share a little story with y'all. Or a collection of stories about my first visit to India in 2012. And so that's what we'll do. And I think I'll start by setting the scene pre-India, and then I'll dive into the the epic adventure that it was. And we'll see what else comes up. But yeah, essentially my first trip to India was like a 30-day on again, off again panic attack that broke me in multiple ways, and Humpty Dumpty was never put back together again. And it took me a while to appreciate what had been done for me, because it didn't feel good. But yeah, there were 3 big moments, and so I'll give you each of those, and probably some fun stories in between. But first, let's paint the scene. Let's give you the pre-India vibes. So it's boop, 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 boop. There we go. I forgot to hit the buttons on the time machine. So it's 2012. Yeah, early 2012. Talk of the end of the world is swirling. And I'm working at an adolescent behavioral health and substance abuse facility. And at that time, substance abuse was the word. Yeah, this was pre-substance use disorder terminology. And I worked at the facility for two and change, maybe 2.5 years. But I was reaching the end of my tenure there because, yeah, I'm not real good with bosses, and definitely not good with management that it doesn't prioritize the clients it serves. And yeah, we won't go into the depths of the bureaucracy of that particular facility, but there were shenanigans abound, and I didn't do myself any favors with how I handled it as a young Drew. Yeah. And so essentially I found myself on the outside looking in without a future trajectory upward. And I had just graduated the previous summer with my master's degree in counseling. So the plan was that I would come out of the master's degree and then slide into more of a counseling position. But yeah, that wasn't how it happened. Instead, I found myself interviewing a lot. Yeah, I had this new, fresh, shiny piece of paper from my graduate studies, and I must have done at least 6, maybe 8 interviews with different organizations and facilities around the South Jersey area. And just nothing felt right. Nothing felt like it was the obvious next move. There was no population I was like dying to work with. There were no supervisors that I felt like really saw me. And so I was kind of spinning my wheels. Didn't know what to do. and sharing about it, in recovery meetings and with my recovery people and with my coworkers. Yeah, yeah. One of my coworkers I think she was being a bit of a smart ass. She's like, "Why don't you just go to India or something?" And she said it, I think it was a joke, but it dinged something inside of me. Yeah, and lights went off. And I was like, oh my gosh, why don't I? Like, my next step in life was obvious. I was going to take a counseling position somewhere. Right? I was going to work in addiction treatment to then get my supervised hours post-graduation. So I knew what the next step was, but it didn't matter if I started it a week from now or a year from now or a month from now. So, yeah. So I started to do a little research, started to click some buttons, and the dream really took life. And then as I was investing more time in like planning and researching stuff, then, hold on. No, my dad's mom, my grandmother, passed away months earlier. Yeah. She had come to live with the family, and that was a really cool experience. It's really cool to hang out with people towards the end of their lives. I've been blessed to do that on multiple occasions. Yeah, there's a really beautiful perspective that's available, or can be. Anywho, so my dad's mom had passed away, and she had, given monies to the next generation, to my folks. And then my folks had shared that monies with my sister and I. And so there were a couple monies in the bank account, and none of the jobs were feeling good. And India, was looking more and more attractive and more possible. Oh, yeah. And so, like, when I was ready to take the leap, then my folks were like, oh, okay, like, here's a graduation gift. Here's, a handful of monies. And so then it was on. And that's when I started scheduling stuff and buying tickets. And, and I scheduled everything way too much, which is a classic early traveler mistake. Any of y'all out there that want to travel, don't overschedule. Any of y'all that have been traveling, you know this already. But yeah, if you're thinking about unplugging for a period of time and traveling the world, don't overschedule, because it'll be headaches that you create that you don't need. And that was definitely the case for me. But I was excited and I used my mind, and so I made plans. And so I put in my notice at that job. It was like May or June. And then I went and hung out at the Omega Institute for a couple months that summer. And that was actually a really beautiful summer. Yeah. I had one of the coolest, most loving, most healthy romantic relationships that I probably ever had. I mean, it only lasted like 2-3 months, but but it was golden. It was beautiful. Yeah. I think it was the first time I was in a romantic relationship where both individuals were aware and mature and present enough to be able to hold space for each other's reactions. And I had never experienced that. Like, people always react to my reactions, and I frequently react to their reactions. And that's never fun. But that summer, that relationship was beautiful. And and I'll tell more of that story, I think, when I do an Omega episode. But really beautiful summer at Omega. And then, I remember I left from the ecstatic chant. Yeah, I left on like literally walked out like mid-Krishna Das set. Yeah, on like a high, and flew to India. Had my backpack. I was ready, or so I thought. I flew into Delhi, and then I forget. It was some series of like train, bus, taxi that took me all the way north to McLeod Ganj, which is near Dharamsala, which is where the Tibetan folks are, where the Dalai Lama hangs out or lives. So I did the typical white guy thing. I went right where the Tibetans were in India. And I've since found out that where I went to go hang out is part of the Parvati Valley, which is where some Indian kids go to just smoke hash and party after their studies. But Dharamsala, yeah, really beautiful. And it's the Himalayan foothills. So I remember getting to McLeod Ganj, which is this really cool backpacker flavored, Tibetan flavored Indian Himalayan foothills mountain village. Almost a city. Really, it's only like a couple roads, but there's plenty of like cafes and smoke shops and, you know, all the touristy stuff. But yeah, I got there after, I think it was like 30 hours straight traveling. Something nuts. And it was a cloudy day. And I remember looking out at the mountains and I was just like, wow, this is so beautiful. And then I woke up the next morning and the clouds were gone and there was a whole other set of mountains on top of those mountains. Yeah, it was just mind-blowing to be like in the Himalayas. I mean, I wasn't, you know, climbing Everest. I was just in the foothills, but still, like I could see Everest. I could see that whole mountain range. I think Everest was there. I don't know. They were big mountains. I remember eating at a cafe and meeting some, I think they were Israeli folks. Yeah. Because it's cool. I've learned this over the years. Like different countries have different hot spots for their vacationing. You know, like Americans go to different parts of the world for vacations, but Canadians go to different spots. Folks in Europe go to different places. And so this spot in northern India was a hot spot for Israeli like college students, kind of. So met some cool folks while I was hanging out there. And I did all this planning, right, leading up. And so in my infinite wisdom of being a first-time traveler, I decided that after months of planning and prepping for a lifetime goal, dream to be achieved and reached, right, to travel to India, on the third day, I would go into a silent meditation retreat. And yeah. And it was like way too much momentum and inertia and energy to try to like stop on a dime and then just observe my breath. But it was the schedule, so I had to do it. And that meditation retreat, yeah, that Vipassana retreat in Dharamkot destroyed me in the most beautiful way. And it was the first time that India like broke me over its knee to reveal something bigger. I remember it was like day 3, day 4 of the retreat, and I wanted to leave so bad. Like it was so hard to show up to every meditation. My mind was running 1,000,000 miles per hour in every different direction with travel anxieties and possible social events and places to see and things to do and plans I made. Yeah. My mind wanted to be anything but still at that point. And like I said, I want to leave so bad, but something in me wasn't moving, right? Like something in me was anchored into that experience at that moment in time. And I just kind of broke. And I remember walking out just like sobbing. I think I left my room and just started crying and walking. And then eventually I just like fell and curled up in a ball and started to do like full body sobs, crying. And I have no idea how long it went on, but I felt like I cried all of the tears that I ever had. Yeah, and then all of a sudden I hear what sounds like laughter. And I like fly into a rage. Like it goes from sadness to rage so quick. I remember it because I'm ready to fight somebody. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm here. I'm vulnerable. I'm crying. I'm having this beautiful moment that doesn't feel beautiful. And someone's going to laugh at me. Someone's going to laugh at my vulnerability. We are going to fight. And so I like pick my head up out of this curled fetal position, sobbing position, to see who's laughing. And I look around, there's nobody around, but the laughing is continuing. And then I look up and I realize that the laughing is coming from the trees. And there are monkeys in the trees all around me. Literally, it had to be like a dozen monkeys. I don't know. But they were laughing or yelling or whatever they were doing. And when I realized it was the monkeys, then I started laughing. And then the monkeys started laughing more. And so there's this like epic, beautiful moment of like me, tears streaming out of my eyes, laughing my face off with all these monkeys in the trees around me laughing. It was just the most like amazing, miraculous, craziest thing ever. But it pulled me out of whatever that broken spell was. So I wiped the tears off my cheeks and thanked the monkeys. And then I just walked to the next meditation session. I think I heard the gong go off or something. And so I just went back to the meditation retreat, like ripped wide open after having a laugh session with my new monkey friends. Yeah. And if you're ever in India and you see monkeys, don't make eye contact and don't try to hang out with them. They will not be your friend. They will steal your shit. And if they're big enough, they will fight you. So just a heads up. Yeah. In Rishikesh, the monkeys are like street gangs. Yeah. Like you don't mess with them, man. Or they'll take all your shit and just leave you on the floor there. But these monkeys in the trees in northern India, yeah, they were cool. Or at least in that moment, they were cool. And so, yep, yeah, that's cool. Reliving that story. Yeah, and so something got broke in that experience that never got put back together again. Like the bottom got ripped out of that jet, and so that thing wasn't flying no more. I mean, yeah, it would try, right? Like the mind, the ego, the narrative would try to maintain. But that was really like the beginning of the end for the narrative having a monopoly on my experience. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still a knucklehead. I was a knucklehead for a long time after that. But the ship had suffered a critical wound at that point and was beginning to sink. We'll say it like that. The mind ship. And so, yeah. So that was the first time I was curled up in the fetal position crying in India on that trip. Only the first time. There are two more. I told you, man. India did a number on me. And India is like that. She has an energy and a presence all her own. Yeah. Some places on this planet, yeah, just have different mojo, man. And I found India to be a really special place and continue to find spots in India to be really special for me. So, yeah, so I finished the meditation retreat and then I'm hanging out in Dharmkot there. Yep. McLeod Ganj for another couple weeks. I was supposed to teach English to the monks, which was going to be super cool. And I had that all scheduled and worked out. But folks in India work on different timelines and different levels of commitment. And so the center that I was supposed to do the English teaching with was a little more flaky than I liked. And so I panicked and started to book the next stop, the next trip, which was going to be Rishikesh. And it was going to be earlier than I thought. I actually wanted to stay up north longer, but I kind of freaked out. And right before I left, the place I was supposed to teach English at actually reached out and was like, hey, we have an interview for you. It's not teaching the monks English, but you can go teach English for the next semester of the Tibetan Performing Arts College. And that would have kept me in northern India through through the spring. Because I was so far north that, yeah, after a certain time period, the roads disappear. You don't you don't get out no more. You got to wait till spring. And so I was not I was not in the headspace to commit to a full semester of college and or really it was more like a full year of college because it was September. Yeah, so that would have kept me in northern India through March, April the next year. And so I frequently think back, I'm like, man, that would have been such a cool opportunity. Just like live there and teach these college kids, right, these Tibetan college kids living in India, English, and to learn from them about their culture and hang out. And yeah, that was a missed opportunity. And then there was also an opportunity to go with a couple that I met. They were going to go hike the Annapurna, I think it's called. Essentially, they were going to go hiking through Nepal, through the mountains in Nepal. And I said no to that too, because I had a plan. So again, don't worry so much about your plans. If you want to travel, just buy the tickets and take the ride and have the adventure. But yeah, I planned a lot. So I freaked out when things didn't go according to plan. So I bailed on northern India earlier than I wanted to. And yeah, and really at that point, I kind of like, yeah, I was like, all right, I'm not staying here as long as I thought. Because originally the plan, I remember telling my parents this, I was going to go for who knows how long. Like I sat my folks down at the kitchen table. And I'm like, look, I'm selling my car. If I meet a guru in a cave in the Himalayas and he says I have to stay there and let rats chew on my toes, that's what I'm going to do. Like I was super idealistic, fully immersed, right? Fully gung-ho. And yeah, and that's not how it turned out. I was actually home in a month. Because I wound up curled up in a fetal position on 3 different occasions. So, all right. So I leave northern India. I stop in Rishikesh, which is a really beautiful city. It's most well known among white folks as being where the Beatles ashram was, but it's obviously way more than that. The Ganges River, the Ganga, flows through. And it's far enough north where it's clean enough to bathe in. If you go further south, the Ganga gets filled with all kinds of nasty human and animal excrement and dead bodies and all that stuff. But in Rishikesh, it's still clean enough to bathe in. And so I really wanted to bathe in the river. That's like a sacred kind of thing in some traditions and some teachings. So I felt really called for that. So we went to Rishikesh for like 3 days, bathed in the Ganges, ate some delicious carrot cake. Yeah. And stayed like right on the river in this really cool hotel. And those were like all the memories I have from my first visit to Rishikesh. I've been back a couple times since, but yeah, the first time it was carrot cake in the Ganga. And oh yeah, and I got a tattoo in northern India in Dharamsala. And I remember joking about that before I left. Like, oh yeah, maybe I'll get a tattoo in India. Because in my mind, like India is, not a very sanitary, clean place compared to American standards. But I met a dude in McLeod Ganj in northern India who, yeah, really cool dude, ran a tattoo shop. He was a DJ. And, yeah, and he DJ'd at a club one night and I went and I got him to play dubstep. And me and a bunch of like young Tibetan monks like danced for hours, and I taught him how to dance the dubstep, and that's a funny memory. I forget that. Yeah, because I had met the monks at basketball. Yep. Yeah, I remember one day I was freaking out, walking around northern India in a panic attack, and I heard the thuds, dunk, 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 and I'm like, wait, I know that sound. And so I walked towards it, and sure enough, it was basketball bouncing on a basketball court, and there was at least a dozen monks, yeah, like hanging out, shooting, and they were playing. So I went and played. It was cool. Yeah. I don't think they liked that I was good, but I got along with a couple of them, And then I saw him later at the dance club that my tattoo buddy was DJing at. And so we danced to dubstep. And then the next morning I went and got my Dharma wheel tattoo. Yeah. And then the very next day, then I left for Rishikesh. Yeah, this is cool. I didn't write this one down. I didn't script this episode, so the memories are just kind of flooding through in this moment. Yeah. So a quick stop in Rishikesh, bathed in the Ganga with a fresh tattoo. I covered it in petroleum jelly, so nothing could get in. But yeah, that was fun. And then I went to Goa. So then I went to the beach. Yeah, because essentially I had decided during one of my freakouts in northern India that I was going home. I wasn't going to do multiple months. And so I had always planned to end my trip in Goa, which is this really beautiful beach resort village. Well, I don't think resort's the right word. Yeah. It's a really cool spot on the beach in southwestern India. And so I wanted to like end there, but I wanted to make a couple more stops, but yeah, it wasn't in the cards. So I fast forwarded my trip to the end and went to Goa. And, I'm forgetting. Yep. Okay. So we'll pick back up Goa in a minute, but I want to give you the second time I was curled up in a fetal position, sobbing. And that was in the Delhi train station on my way to Rishikesh. No. Was it Rishikesh? Yeah, it might have been. Anywho, Delhi train station. At one point or another, I'm there, and the Delhi train station is madness. And it's all in a variety of language, but not English. And so I remember getting there and having a ticket that I bought online, and I didn't know where to get the real ticket, and I didn't know where the train was or how to find the train, and I just spun. I spiraled, and so I think I just put my back up against a wall in the middle of this, like, I mean, people are everywhere. It's like Union Station, New York, but the Indian version, and probably bigger and crazier. At least crazier for me. And so I think I just got overwhelmed. I put my back against the wall and just slid down and just sobbed and just cried. And yeah. And I had my ticket in my hand. I remember because like my tears smudged the ticket. So I got the ticket, but then I didn't know where the train was. And I didn't know how to figure it out. So I'm sitting there crying. And some random Indian guy just like taps me on the arm. He's like, "Oh, what is wrong? Where's your train?" And I showed him my ticket. He's like, "Oh, yes, come with me." He's like, it's 10 minutes late, that's all. So, like, apparently I had been in the right spot, but because everything runs late there, it wasn't there, so I just started freaking out. And, yeah, and he knew I was, like, fragile, so he passed me off to a guy who was waiting for the same train. It was just, like, I think the guy was in military. Yeah, some kind of dude. But he's like, "Oh, you wait with him. He's a good man. He will get you on the train." And then this guy just disappeared into the mass of people. And so it was like, when I was broken and crying, the monkey showed up to laugh with me. This time I was broken and crying, and some random stranger just, performed an act of kindness, took a couple moments out of their day to help. Yeah. And I got on the train, and that was cool to do an Indian train ride. Yeah. Yeah. So that was the second time in public crying. And then the third time, this is an epic ending to this story. So I'm in Goa. I'm there for a week. Right? And this is the end of the trip. I'd fast forwarded to the end, booked my flight home. I was going to do a stopover in Paris. But essentially, I was spending a week at the beach as a reward for myself for having survived, or mostly survived, my previous 3 weeks of carnage and anxiety. And Yeah, and it was beautiful. Goa was so gorgeous. I slept in like, it was more like a hut that was made of cardboard. That was, yeah. Like I fell asleep to the sound of the ocean every night for 4 or 5 nights in a hut and barefoot everywhere. Yeah, just beautiful. I have a picture. Me and a buddy went out. Yeah, we like kayaked around the bay. That's a really cool memory. Yeah. Oh yeah, and this buddy, this is also cool. This buddy that I'm kayaking around the bay, who is in Goa, totally meet him by chance after I had initially met him in northern India at the Vipassana retreat. All right. So what are the odds that 2 white guys from New Jersey happen to show up to the same Vipassana retreat in early September and then wind up literally at the same resort or at the same like restaurant weeks later on the other side of the country? And it just, no planning at all. We just bumped into each other again. So it was so serendipitous. It was so beautiful. And this guy turned out to be like my knight in shining armor. Because on the last day, or what was supposed to be my last day in India, there was a group of us that had become friendly over the week in Goa. So we go out to eat what's going to be our last like lunch. And I remember I already went to the taxi guy and haggled a price to get from Goa to the airport. So everything was packed, everything was set. We are at the restaurant, we order our food, and we decide to get a group picture. We take a group picture. We're all having good times, having fun. I'm like, oh, get a picture here. Like there was a big boat, and it had an Indian flag that was like fully in the wind. So it's a beautiful shot, and with the bay behind it. And I actually have this picture online. Maybe, yeah, I'll use this photo as the image on Instagram. But I climb up in the boat. My buddy takes the picture of me, right, with the Indian flag, with the bay behind me. And then I go to come down from the boat, and I totally wipe out. I still to this day don't understand how I did it, but essentially I fell from like the top of the boat into the boat, but in like a spinning fashion because I missed the step. And so I put my arm out to brace my fall from about 12 or 15 feet and pop my elbow right out of socket. Right. So I dislocate my elbow. Yeah. And I'm instantly in agonizing pain. And my friend tells the story that he took the picture of me in the boat, and then I go to climb down, and he says, like, 1 second I'm there taking the picture, and the next I disappear, and then he just heard these, like, blood-curdling screams out of the boat. And those screams were mine, and I knew something was wrong. And I overreact to physical pain to begin with, even when it's a little bit. But in this case, yeah, like, my elbow was not how it was supposed to be. Like, things were not where they were supposed to be. Anatomically. And so I'm yelling, freaking out, causing a scene. Everybody rushes to the boat. Like I remember there being like a group of people around me, and like every time everybody saw my elbow, they like gasped. And so my buddy, right, the knight in shining armor, what's up, Brian? Give him a shout out. He's a really cool dude. He does a lot of really amazing work with men now. But anywho, yeah. So he like runs and gets like the lifeguard or wherever. And so they come, and there's nothing they're doing for a dislocated elbow at the beach. And this is like rural beach, right? This is like a very like paradise, rural, beautiful place to be if you don't have a medical emergency that needs attention. And so, yeah. And so the way it worked out, I had all my bags packed because I was leaving anyway. So they just threw me and my bag in this Jeep that they had, which had no shocks or struts at all, I'm convinced. And they throw me in with the lifeguard, and he drives me to the nearest like medical clinic. It's got to be 45 minutes to the medical clinic. We get there. They take one look at me and they're like, nope, here's some Tylenol, which came in the form of like a needle in the butt. It wasn't even a pill. So they give me a syringe of Tylenol in my butt, and they're like, yeah, there's nothing we can do here. You have to take him like to an actual hospital. And I'm delirious this whole time. And chain smoking cigarettes. I remember that. I remember sitting there with my arm, just like looking at my arm every couple minutes, like, damn, that's not right. And I'm like delirious off the natural opiates that are pulsating through my body. And I'm chain smoking cigarettes in the back. And then the guys that drove me didn't understand English. So they're just seeing this like crazy American guy talking shit. But I'm pretty sure I was trying to make jokes. But again, the Jeep had no shocks or struts. So literally every bump in the road I felt through my dislocated elbow. Yeah, that was horrific. That was not fun. But, oh yeah, and then my buddy, him and a couple of the folks that we were with jumped in a taxi and like drove behind us. So then they were able to help navigate the situation because I was half brain dead with the pain. And so they figured out that I had two options. I could go to the public hospital, which was free and was an hour and a half away or 2 hours away, but I might not get seen for a day or two. So that was option one. Sit in a public Indian hospital waiting room for a day, waiting for an x-ray or something. Or I could go to a private hospital, which was going to cost money. And I think that was like an hour and change away too. Or 2 hours, something like that. But there they could see me immediately. And so I'm like, yeah, obviously take me to the place that will see me immediately. And so they stuffed all my stuff in the taxi. I gave people a bunch of one-armed hugs. and took off for the private hospital. That was like, it was over an hour away. I know that for sure. Might have been closer to 2. But again, I'm like chain smoking cigarettes out the window. I don't think I should have been, but I didn't care. When you're in intense pain like that, things become easy to justify. But yeah. And so I finally get to the private hospital. My elbow is still dislocated. I'm delirious. It is close to 3 hours after the incident happened. And they take me in. And I remember, oh, no. It was after they did the initial thing. So they take me in, immediately take me to the x-ray. They x-ray my arm. They're like, yep, that's not how it's supposed to be. And we can fix it. But we're going to have to put you under to fix it. And I told them, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, we can do all that. They're like, oh, when's the last time you ate? I'm like, oh, this morning. They're like, oh, no, we're going to have to wait. Right? Because you're supposed to do anesthesia on an empty stomach. So they're like, all right, we'll do it first thing tomorrow morning. I'm like, no, dude. I already have my plane ticket booked for tonight. I am leaving India tonight. And and I remember the emergency room doctor, or the doctor there, like something about the thrill of trying to get me to the airport on time for my flight. All of a sudden, he didn't give a shit about anesthesia timelines or none of that. Like, there's some kind of like thrill seeking in him that was like, all right. And he looked me dead in the eye. He's like, we're going to get you on that plane. And and sure enough, they wheeled me back, knocked me out, popped my arm back in, casted it, all in the next like hour and a half. And then I don't think I was fully out from the anesthesia when they were loading me into the taxi to go to the airport. Like, I'm pretty sure I was still really high, but they had done their thing. They had already casted my arm, so I was good to go. So it didn't matter if I recovered in the hospital room there or in the taxi. And so, and the really cool part, and you'll never see this in American medical system, I got to that hospital, I got an x-ray, I got anesthesia, I got the procedure done while I was out, and the cast. That was all done in like under 2 hours for $500 American. Bing, bang, boom, in and out, keep it moving. American medical system, that would have cost maybe 10 grand and taken days. So props to that doctor and that team. Yeah, I think he was like an emergency room doctor, like thrill seeker kind of guy. Yeah, because he didn't care about my case at all until I told him I had a deadline. And then he lit up at the challenge. It was funny. Even like the nurses around him were like looking at him like, are you sure we should be doing this? He's like, oh, we're doing it. I'm getting you on that plane. So after all this happens, yeah, they stick me in the taxi, and it's like an hour and a half to the airport from the hospital. Yeah. And I had like an hour and a half to check in. It was maybe like 2 hours to my flight, and I had an hour and a half ride to get there or something. It was real close. So it was all hanging in the balance. So I get in the taxi, half high, and I told the taxi driver, I'm like, look, I will pay you double if you get me there in half the time. Yeah, and some Indian drivers are crazy. This guy was. But this guy was now also being paid double to be extra crazy. And I'm in the back seat, still chain smoking cigarettes, delirious on pain medication, yelling at him to go faster. And so we were taking like blind turns in the wrong lane, passing cars. Like that could have went wrong so many times. But it did it. He drove like a maniac. I was high as a kite. We get to the airport with 20 minutes. No, like a half hour to spare. He lets me out. I high-five him. I pay him the money. I'm psyched. You know, I high-fived him with my good hand, my good arm. I'm psyched. I light up my victory cigarette right before I'm about to go check in for the flight. And I noticed like it looks closed inside the airport, which is strange because I had a flight that was supposed to leave in a half hour. And so I go to like walk in, and the guy's like, oh, plane left. I'm like, what do you mean the plane left? Like, yeah, sure, other planes left, but like my plane leaves in a half hour. Like, let me talk to the lady. And so the lady who was working the ticket desk came out, and she and she informed me that because I had not checked in for my flight, they just went ahead and sent the plane out early, which apparently is a thing they do in India sometimes. Again, never experienced it a day in my life in America. Planes are always late, never early. But apparently, because, yeah, I didn't check in online or didn't show up early enough to check in. They had just marked me as a no-show, and so the plane had left. I think the woman said the plane literally was on the runway, like at that moment. And I immediately become like irate, furious. I throw my bag down. I throw my cigarette, flick it, I'm cussing. And all like attempting to be spiritual and kind in India is now gone. Now I'm just a raging, half high American maniac. And then I kind of come out of my little temper tantrum and I come back to try to, I don't know, manipulate the situation or figure something out. And as I kind of like come out of my little rage fit, I realize that the one Indian military guy that was standing at the door now has like 5 of his buddies standing next to him. So there's like 6 Indian military guys and me, this crazy, high, one-armed American throwing a temper tantrum. And I realized, like, holy shit, if I don't take a deep breath and walk away, these guys are going to put me in an Indian jail somewhere. And so, yeah. Just so defeated, so broken. And then the woman from the ticket center was like, like the first flight out is tomorrow at like 5:30. And this was maybe like 10 o'clock at night. So essentially I was going to spend one more night in India and then leave. But it also cost me like $800 American to change my flight to the next morning. But yeah. So after all of that, I make it to the airport on time, but the plane has left early. I throw a temper tantrum. I avoid Indian jail. And then I just wander off with my backpack. And this is a rural airport. It's not... Goa isn't really super, super populated. So I remember I just walked out to like the curb somewhere, put my bag down, sat down, and started crying again. It was practice at this point. Yeah. Like, oh, here I am again. India, you win. 3-0. Broke me again. And so I'm just like crying and sobbing and like angry and high, and my arm's in a cast now, so like everything I'm doing is more complicated. And then this Indian guy, taxi driver, pulls up and he walks over. I don't even think he said anything to me, but I just started yelling at him because I was tired of like all the haggling. There's a lot of haggling that goes on in India, and yeah, so I was like, I started barking at him. He's like, "Oh, what do you need?" I'm like, "I don't need nothing from you." I'm like, unless you got like a phone and the internet in the middle of nowhere here, like just leave me alone. I think I might have cussed at him too. And so he like left me alone because I was crazy American. But then he came back like 5 minutes later, and he had his hands up. He's like, "Easy, easy. I'm good guy. I'm good guy. I find you computer." I'm like, "What do you mean he found me a computer?" And sure enough, he brings me to the snack stand, the one snack stand in the whole airport, which apparently was open. Everything else was closed except this one snack stand outside. And the kid that was running it had every electronic known. He had a phone, he had a tablet, he had and this is like 2012, so slightly less screens around. But this guy had everything. And yeah. He's like, "Oh, you need to use internet?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, here." And so they gave me everything I needed. They gave me the phone, they gave me the internet, gave me everything. So I scheduled my flight for the next day. And then I think I bought some chai and cookies and then just went and cried some more. But these tears now were like, just like baffled. Like once again, I'm broken, I'm toast, I'm ruined. And 2 random strangers come through and take care of me and provide me with everything I'm looking for. And yeah, like the relief. Yeah. Yeah. So that was the 3rd time that I sobbed in public, broken in India. And the last time for that trip, because yeah, then I left the next morning on a straight to Newark flight, which is not a good idea as a smoker. Yeah. That was a tough flight, man. I think it was like 18 hours or 17 hours straight. No cigarettes, no nicotine. That was the flight I realized that I should have a patch for longer international flights. So that was my smoking hack for a while. Yeah, I would just put a patch on before a flight that was, longer than 3 or 5 hours. And then I didn't have any nicotine fits. So there's a free travel hack for y'all smokers out there. But yeah. So that plane took me back to Newark, and then I was back at my parents' house. And I was broken and lost with my arm in a sling, shattered. My whole lifelong dream of India and finding a guru and being spiritual have been just, destroyed. Super disillusioned. And I watched the entire show Lost over the next 2 weeks. 3 weeks maybe. Yeah. And it was totally appropriate. I was lost. They were lost. So I went on the adventure. The cast were my friends as I nurtured my broken wing on the couch. And then, a short time later, I took another job. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I had some money left because I came home early, so I decided to gamble. Because at that point I was still in gambling addiction. I'd quit drugs and alcohol, but I was still gambling. And I got home and I started gambling on the football games, and I lost all of my reserve monies in the first month. So I freaked out about that too. And so instead of like getting to like take my time and nurture myself back to health, I had to take a job at a treatment center that December. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was my first trip to India. That shattered me. But it also revealed that, yeah, like sometimes we have to get broken in order to arrive at a cooler place. Or sometimes who we think we are needs to get shattered to reveal more of who we really are. And going into that India trip, I remember telling people, yeah, like I don't want to read about God. I don't want to read books about God. I want to meet God. I want to know God. Yeah. Yeah. I had a lot of like competitive sports zest and vigor that I brought to early spirituality. I remember at one point I wanted to get a Enlightenment or Bust t-shirt. But anywho, yeah, I remember going into the India trip. I'm like, I'm going to go meet God. I don't want to talk about God. I don't want to learn about God. I want to learn from God. And yeah, it turns out God or the universe or whatever teaches with some significant backhands when necessary, especially for stubborn New Jersey knuckleheads like myself. Yeah, and the way I was broken multiply in ways that were irreparable turned out to be the greatest blessing of my life, because it opened me up to the grace that's available, that I would say is godlike or godly, or yeah, essentially what I learned from that first visit to India is that despite my best plans and best intentions, right, and being a knucklehead, that in order to meet God, in order to know God, in order to be in the embrace of something bigger, my smaller version had to get shattered. It had to get crumbled. And in order to know and really truly experience God's grace or love or whatever, yeah, I had to be broken open and raw and vulnerable enough to really feel it, to really be available for it. And so, yeah, it turns out a 30-day long, on again, off again panic attack in India, where I was left curled in the fetal position crying on multiple occasions. It was the exact recipe to crack me wide open and bust through layers of my spiritual idealism and give me a direct experience of the love and the grace and the beauty that is life or God or whatever is here, whatever it is that I am. Yeah. It's cool to know that, like I said, despite my best efforts to do what I think I should do, like God still got me. Like the grace was gifted. I never earned it. I didn't do anything to achieve the grace and the blessings and the love and the support that I got from various strangers in a strange land and a handful of monkeys. Yeah. I didn't earn it. It was just gifted. And that it's always available. You know, whenever I'm done being a knucklehead and trying to make everything work the way I think it should, I can always come back to this abounding, abiding grace. And life is so beautiful and simple here. And so India provided me exactly what I was hoping for in my heart of hearts. It just delivered it in a slightly different fashion than than I was anticipating. But sometimes the most loving thing the universe can do is okie dokie a little bit. Yeah, get you looking over here while it smacks you from over there. Yeah. Yeah. This is nice to revisit, to feel into this again. Yeah. And so that was my first visit to India. And I've been back a couple other times. And I'll tell those stories on a different occasion. Because each one has been impactful in a different, beautiful way. But this was the first. And you always remember your first. All right. Yeah, we'll leave it here. This is nice. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for taking the journey through my storyland. As always, be gentle with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Remember that there is a grace that's always got you. If you can slow down and make yourself available to it. And until next time, love y'all. And I'll see you a little further down the road.